Welcome back to Catching It with Katie. We just got back from Kentucky. I am so whipped. I'm so tired. Like, we got home Saturday and then straight went into like mini fall watch, and y'all will have to stay tuned for more about that. But I have my bestie Dani on the podcast today. I mean, is this even a podcast? Yeah, it's a podcast.
It's a podcast.
It's a podcast.
Yeah.
We're just chatting. And so for a little backstory, because she's a fellow horse girl, so we're going to get into horse show stuff, but as a backstory as to like our relationship, because we've done one of these episodes a long time ago. But when I was 16, I won't say how old you were.
I would have been 21.
When I was 16, she was 21. She was like getting more into like university life, adulthood life. And so she was selling her all around gelding named Kalvin, AKA Zippin' on Top. And that's who became my youth career show partner. And when I bought him, my parents bought him, he came down from Colorado because that's where he had been boarded and trained. And I was keeping him at home, and I was like having such issues figuring out his buttons because he was so unique. Yeah. We'll call him unique. And so Dani offered to help. And then my parents were like, well, we'll give you a ticket if you'll come, hang out for the weekend and just show her how to ride. And so she came all the way from Alberta to help me ride Kalvin, and it just clicked. Yeah. Became besties. And ever since then, we've had this not only bond over the horses, but we've had really cool experiences. And so she lives here now. Yeah. She came to be my maid of honor and met her husband while she was here visiting, because before she lived here, she used to visit for like
a month at a time. An inappropriate amount of time.
Well, and we never planned for it to be a month. It's like you'd come for 2 weeks. Like, let's say it'd be like, oh, come for CMA Fest. Yeah.
And
whatever.
then we'll go to the lake the next week.
And we'll go to the lake and we'll make it a 2-week thing. And then they would come like the day before you'd leave.
And we'd be panicking. Both of us would be so sad.
And like, we'd be calling Brian and being like, can you please swap her, whatever, her flight. And so her dad would always oblige us.
He was like, I don't care.
So that was so fun. And now you live here. And unfortunately, I feel like we see each other
the irony
less.
of it all. Yeah, we definitely see each other less. But it's kind of cool because it was a year and a half ago now. Katie brought me on to help with working with like all of this stuff. So
I feel like you've been here longer.
In October, it'll be 2 years.
Okay. Yeah. And so, I mean, give us a little background on what you do, because a lot of people have been interested in like, what goes on behind the scenes, because I feel like the team has just grown exponentially over the last 3 years. So give us a little, I don't know, gist of what you do.
So when Katie makes her videos, she goes through obviously films, she edits them all herself, but then for, Facebook and TikTok, those longer formats are okay. Mm-hmm. But not on Snapchat, not on YouTube, not on Instagram. So then I go through it and I edit every video that needs it down to fit the standards.
Most of them need it, because I love to be 4 minutes long, and that's just the bane of her existence.
As of late, I'll look at them and I'm like, I hate you so much, Katie. I'll look at like a 9-minute video. I'm like, and so, I do that. So everything gets cross-posted by me. And then I also help with the YouTube channel.
Stallion pages,
the merch page.
Yep. I mean, so she is wildly talented in many ways. So she went to school for neuroscience, and then she's also has a master's in mediation and like all these weird things that tie in together. She and her husband own a trash company. Like there's just a whole lot of things.
Own a jiu-jitsu gym.
Yeah. That's like the big one. So she's a jiu-jitsu queen. And so she also kind of helps like a little bit on the HRE type of things here as well. So it's kind of wild to me that that's even needed in a company that I created. Like that's wild that like there's that many employees and there's that many, but it's great. We don't see each other as much probably in a fun way, but it's very nice having someone that's like in my corner that like I know without a doubt you have like all the intentions of loving the business or loving whatever I have going on like for me, and it's like when you are building something, it's like you have to have those people that you like trust wholeheartedly. So like you're that gal.
Well, and it's kind of nice because I do have other clients, but I don't know. I like working for you because I don't know. It's just like I feel like I'm helping build something, which is really nice. That sounds so corny.
So in a good way and a bad way, I'm kind of low maintenance. Like when
Katie's
like
too low maintenance.
Sometimes you wish I'd give some input.
Yeah. Like I just, before we were talking, I just gave like a really bad idea, but it was a mistake and like double named people named the same thing. And she just was like, okay. I'm like, wait, hold on. No, that's a bad idea. You should not have just been okay with that.
Like there's just so many things going on at once that I have to just, some stuff just can't take too much spot in my, can't take too much space in my brain. And so my cousin Erin, while we were gone on this past trip, she's a photographer and she came and helped out by taking some pictures while I was gone. And so I'm super close with my cousins and she's been like a sister my whole life. And so she was hanging out with my mom one of the days and she was like, my mom was asking her, well, what's it like over there? Like, what's it like? Which it wasn't even a normal day because we weren't here. But she's like, what's it like working over there? And she was like, so you know on the episode of Friends where Monica goes and wedding dress shops and she gives everyone whistles and then she just is like, go, 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 you over there, you over there, you over there. She's like, that's kind of like how it is. And I was like, I hate that that's the chaotic.
It's super accurate, but the thing is, it's like when you work with animals and this many people, like things are just unpredictable.
Yeah. Like, you know, I have a brand manager named Abra and she's the reason everything goes around.
Yes,
seriously.
100%.
She is the reason everything goes around. She's amazing. And she will text me and be like, why haven't you posted this yet? Or I need this or I need that. And I'm like, Charlotte's trying to die at the moment. I'm so sorry.
6 horses are actively trying to die right now.
I'm like, I'm driving to the vet. I can't do that right now. I'm so sorry. So it's like, there's a lot of different aspects throughout the day that just cause chaos.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you help kind of manage the chaos a bit and you are also a good insight into like the horse show world of it. And so a lot of people had questions, you know, kind of pertaining to this last horse show because it was a lot different than anything that I've ever shared, you know, being gone that long, showing in, you know, classes that I've never shown in before. And it was interesting. So I know you had some questions, you know.
So one of the, like, especially new for you things, and you were showing 3 different horses.
Yes.
So can you kind of explain what that's like and the difficulties around it?
And let me just say, a lot of people do this all the time. Yeah. This isn't special. Like, it's not special that
it's not special.
It's hard. It's kind of hard to describe because horse trainers do it all the time. Yeah. You know, they've got these horses that they're swapping back and forth between, and they have different feel, different buttons, different attitude, different everything, right? Well, I wouldn't say it's uncommon for amateurs to like have 1 or 2 horses. Like some might have an English horse and a Western horse. Some might do the all around like I used to, where it's all on one horse. Others might have like a 3-year-old pleasure horse and then their senior pleasure horse. Like, I don't think it's uncommon necessarily for someone to ride multiple horses, but I was very proud of myself. I will say, like, I'm usually pretty self-deprecating. I was very proud of myself because other than Kennedy, I don't really have access to the other horses to ride all the time and like practice and be, you know, really synced up with them. And so I showed Kennedy in the Western Pleasure. I showed Denver in the Western Pleasure, and then for the first time. And then I showed Hollywood in the Western Riding. And I don't think you could pick 3 horses that were more different from one another. And Kennedy being like the only one that, like I said, like I'd gotten to ride at home and, you know, be a little bit more in sync with.
But you haven't shown her that much.
No, this is my second. It is different. It's so different.
It's very different.
And so this was our second show. Denver, this was my first time ever showing him. And I have ridden him, like, before I showed him, I've ridden him thrice within the year of 2026.
Can you tell the story of Aaron and you conversing about whether you were going to get to show him?
This show is really long. It was called the Premiere. It's at the Kentucky Horse Park. This show specifically has a lot of like futurity and maturity classes. So a futurity within AQHA and within a lot of breed associations, is usually 4 years and under. It's like a class that is for these younger horses, and you usually win some money. It usually has money tied to it. It's not just a regular AQHA class. And so it's usually in like a pro division, open, like, and I guess I should say open instead of pro, because anyone can show in it, trainers or non-pros, but then in the non-pro, only non-pros can show.
Yeah.
And so they have the Futurities, and then they have the maturities, which is the same thing, but for like 5 and over. And so Denver being 5, he has not shown in a Western Pleasure class since last October. After that, he swapped to Western Riding for the World Show. And then after the World Show in November, he was not ridden until late March at all.
Yeah.
Not a single ride from November to late March.
And he was breeding, right?
Yes, and he was breeding.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different mental swap. So then he went back into work and only went back into thinking like Western Riding mode, which is a lot more forward. It's a lot freer. It's very different than Western Pleasure. And so at this show, I was like, listen, it's been our goal that I show Denver in a Western Pleasure class. And I see that there's a maturity like a week in to this show, into this show. I would like to show in it. Mm-hmm. I was like, I would really like to show in it. I would really like to just rip the Band-Aid off if we can. And also I was joking, but not joking. I was like, or I could show him in the Western Riding. That's fine. I'll just show him the Western Riding. Arguably, I think I'd probably do better at it.
Just testing your luck. You're like, or.
And because his whole thing was, he was like, listen, like there's already 15 horses in that class. It's not that I think Denver is going to be bad, because he's not bad for me ever. He was like, but stallions, and young stallions specifically, and like fresh off the breeding train stallions. I mean, he's only been like out of the breeding shed for like 60 days. You know, they can be kind of unpredictable. And he gave us zero reason to think he would do anything.
Yeah.
Literally at all, based on Aaron riding him or like me practicing. But you get into a pen of a bunch of horses. If like, who knows? What if a mare that's in heat comes in, gets right in front of him and blocks him in, and you just don't know.
Yeah.
So you have to ride smart while you're in there. Mm-hmm. You have to make sure you're putting him in spaces that are good for him. You have to make sure you're not putting him into bad positions. And, there was just a lot to it that was making Aaron a little nervous, I think. But I think he also believed in Denver. And after having a couple of lessons, we were walking out to the first lesson, and I was like, and listen, if this is a stretch, I said that to Aaron. I was like, if this is a stretch, and he's like, I'm just going to stop you right here. There's nothing about this that isn't a stretch. Like, this is 100% a stretch. We're gonna figure it out. And so then I had 2 lessons, and honestly, the majority of the lesson, he's like, that looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. And so I don't think he could really tell me no at that point, that I couldn't, because we had very successful lessons. I think if I had gone out there and we were just having issues and not vibing and, whatever, I think he would have probably pulled the plug and I would have had to listen to him. But, we definitely didn't have like the best go ever in our show. Like, we had this one class, it was clean. We didn't break. We had an even pace the majority of the time. Like, sometimes it was me that kind of got out of rhythm.
Yeah.
We had a good spot on the rail the whole time. There was things like, we got in there and they called for the extended jog, and I was like, we didn't practice this. I don't know how fast to go. I don't know where, I don't want to make him go too fast and then not be able to bring him back down with my feet.
You're
I don't
giving
want
like Aaron the big eyes. You're like,
and then it's like, if I pushed him, I was going to have to pass the person in front of me and like pull him off the rail.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I don't want to do that.
I'm like, I know he does well off the rail, but then I don't know how it's going to be getting him back on. And I like my spot. And so I very much negated fancy points.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
You're
like,
just conservative.
I was very conservative. And Denver, like, that's where he can go win the class, is like his extended jog. And like he's so fancy. And I just was like, no.
Nope.
and then at one point, Aaron's like, are you going to use your feet? Because I was, once I got in there, again, it's the difficulty of riding 3 different horses.
Yeah.
I had been riding Kennedy, I had been riding Hollywood, I'd been riding Denver, and some of them, I'd had so much information put in my brain in like 24 hours. some of them you like put your feet in and then let them settle, and you don't use your feet to like come back down from the jog. Like if you want them to like slow down or whatever, like Kennedy, you don't really use your feet like a whole lot at the jog. She has this really cute little like up and down jog, and you don't really have to work for it that hard, and you don't want to push her too much forward. Denver has a very cute jog, but I was supposed to be using my feet. I got it so backwards. I got in there and I was like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one I'm supposed to do. I don't know if I'm supposed to go in. I don't know if I'm supposed to stay out. And so at one point, Aaron's like, are you going to use your feet? Use your dang feet. What are you doing?
You're like, right. Yes, I am in fact going to do that.
And so at like one point, he was a little more forward than he should have been, because I was just like, I guess I'm riding this jog right now. Whatever. And we brought it back. It was all good. The second way was much better.
Yeah.
I had a much better understanding of him turning around and going the second way. So there was things like that. And then one time at the lope, I was loping him, and I remember hearing him say outside, he can lope slow. Let him lope slow. So in turn, when I got in there, that meant in my brain, lope as slow as you possibly can, which isn't the best for him. He looks better going more forward, but that didn't make sense in my brain at that point.
You're like, last cue, go slow.
I was like, yeah. And so I'm loping down the line. He's like, you're almost trotting. Lope, kiss, bush. And so it was really funny. But then, so it's like, he's so like from the sidelines, Aaron's so
I love
serious
how sassy he is.
and sassy. But then you get off and he's like, that was so good, you know?
Yeah.
And so we had an awkward little high five at the end. There's video of it, and it doesn't look nearly as awkward as it felt, because he went for one of, like, okay, so high five. He went for this, and I didn't, and so then it was just like a really weird.
And you're like, yeah,
it's a really weird handhold. Anyway, so that was riding Denver.
Yeah.
So different. I forgot the original question.
Yeah, riding the three different horses, and kind of their feel.
Because Denver's not necessarily like, you're not pushing him the whole time. You just kind of get in there and then you just ride his rhythm.
Yeah.
Like you just keep him rhythm. So like I counted a lot when I was on him. And you don't want him to lay on your foot, because a lot of the times, like let's say you're on the right lead. So that means their right front leg is extending the most, and you're trying to push him forward into that like that leg, and you're trying to keep his hind end engaged. Well, with Denver, he'll start to just lay on your foot if you keep it there. And then you lose your momentum, you lose your power with that foot. So you just ask him to, you just kind of put it on him when he needs it, and then you take it off. Whereas with Hollywood, which is my 18-year-old Western riding gelding,
Yeah.
he was just like, there's a couple times in the pattern you can see where we don't necessarily break, but we like stall out for a half of a stride, and it's very noticeable. And so like I came out, and Jeff Malott, who was helping me at the show, was like, you took your leg off, didn't you? And I was like, yes, for like a half of a second. And he's like, yeah, you can't do that. And so Denver's very different in the fact that, you know, you just put it on when you need it the entire time with Hollywood.
It's like the opposite.
And then his jog, it's very snaky. It's very low to the ground. There's not a lot of lift to it. And so to get over the log clean and to have like a nice cadence, you kind of have to just like use your seat, and you have to really use your feet the entire time to create this cadence.
Yeah.
He's not going to do it for you. Like you have to help him.
Yeah.
And so that's so different going from one where you're pushing and driving the entire time, and then get onto one where you're more so thinking about just rhythm and staying soft and square. And then on Kennedy, who's a weirdo. So for instance, Kelby Hutchinson, he trained her for like a year. And so he was watching me on her, and he was like, Kennedy, I love that horse. She is still to this day, one of the most talented horses I've ever ridden, but she's a weirdo. And I was like, I'm figuring that out.
I'm well aware.
Yeah. And so like Stephanie, who, you know, is training here at home, and then she went to this show absolutely knowing that we were going to try to get tips from Aaron, and we were going to use this as kind of like a fact-finding mission on Kennedy, because we had multiple times of showing her. And she's interesting because she's so naturally talented. But you have to really hone in on like her prep. Her prep is really important. Some horses like Hollywood, who don't want to move and don't want to go faster than they have to and whatever, like he doesn't get lunged. He he doesn't get like a whole lot of prep. Like you take him out and you might, get him off of his shoulder a little bit, or you might whatever. You might do a little schooling ride. That's about it. Kennedy,
there's a whole production.
If you don't have her energy level down enough, she's just like a crackhead and is like, look over there, da da da. And she's not malicious and she's not meaning to be bad. It's just you have to have her prep.
She's mentally high energy.
She's high energy, but it's like as you get her mentally prepared a little bit more, which doesn't always mean just like running her around. Like it just, there's some exercises that Aaron told us that made so much sense, but pissed me off at the same time because they're so tailored to Kennedy that once we did it, I was like, I would have loved to have known that.
And these are kind of interesting because a quarter horse normally won't do these things.
So once Aaron got on her, because at the very beginning of the show, he's like, she's too high energy. She needs, for me to accurately fix these buttons, she needs to be knocked down a bit. So we waited until I showed the first day, which the first day, there's a literal picture of me loping down the rail. And it's from straight on, and you can see me. My legs are just completely off of her.
Just air.
Because she was wildly too energetic the first day that we showed her. And I was just trying to go for a clean clean ride. And so like I would get her into the lope, and she's very naturally talented and like, you never have to worry about her having like enough impulsion or enough hawk or enough whatever. So she's more of the type of horse that you have to try to soften to the ground. Like she'll just get really punchy to the ground if you don't let her soften into it. Like if you're just pushing, she'll just get harder and get like a lot
choppier looking.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so like the first day that I showed her, it was very much just ride what you've got because we can't fix this in the show pen right now. We've just got to deal with it. And so I was just trying to create a rhythm instead of like push her or like affect her gait really that much. I was just kind of letting her do what she naturally does and try to keep it an even pace. That's basically what the first ride was. So after we got through that and figured her out a little bit more as the show went on, he hopped on her. And mind you, Aaron Moses is the one who trained Kennedy. So he's the one who won the Congress with her as a 2-year-old. He's the one that had her in training the majority of her show career. And he and Kelby are good friends, and so I'm sure they do things a little similarly. Well, Kennedy is very unlike Denver in that Denver, like I said, you have to keep him off of your foot. Like he wants to lay on it. And so one of the prep things we do with him is like rollbacks, which I'll just get on the fence.
Yeah.
And so like I'll just turn him and lope him off quick. And then I'll stop, turn him and lope him off quick and just get him like pushing off of my foot and like really getting underneath himself with his hind end. If you did that with her, it would get her so jazzed up and amped up and like way too energetic, and it would just frazzle her. Yeah. That would not be a good thing to do with her. And so he knows that. And so he figured that out with her, that instead of doing some things that you would do on the more dull horses, you have to do things that are just for Kennedy. So I remember I was riding around on Denver while he was kind of doing his little Kennedy figure out session. And he comes by, he's like, oh yeah, I forgot that I taught her dressage because that works for her. And that's why Aaron's a freak in the show pen. And that's why he's a freak of nature as a trainer, is that he's so creative. He doesn't put himself into a box. Yeah. And he listens to the horse and he does what the horse needs. Yeah. But in the same breath, it's so annoying because it makes so much sense. But because we've put ourselves in boxes, it's hard to get out, right? And it's hard to think about it. So he's like, yeah, she's not like the other horses that you can do this or that with. So for her jog, because she wants to go really forward, but she can have this cute, really up and down, really clean jog. Like in the Western Pleasure, that's probably my biggest grievance with Western Pleasure is their jog gets trashy. Like it gets to where it's not a 2-beat. And like, I hate that it's basically like a fast walk. You know, it looks terrible. And so with Aaron, I appreciate that his horses jog. Like he makes sure they're doing a nice 1-2 clean beat. And so with Kennedy, you can get her to achieve that really slowly because she has this really natural impulsion and carriage. But to achieve it, he's like, I taught her how to Piaffe.
Which we definitely need to insert a video of, just to understand what it is.
Essentially, a Piaffe, it's like you're jogging in place. Like you're staying in the same spot, but they're doing a 1-2 beat.
Yeah.
And
horse dancing.
It looks like they're dancing. So he just stood there and had her Piaffing, and I'm like, what the frick? Like, who would have thought of that? And then he's like, oh yeah. And then for the lope, because again, she gets where she like skips off of her hind end. It's like she gets lazy. And because she's so naturally gifted and she can reach up underneath herself with her hind end so easily, she gets lazy. And so instead of just being slow and soft to the ground, she like boing, 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 like bounces off of her hind end. And so he's like, to get her to rock back, I can't do the things that I do with my other horses that are duller. I have to do for Kennedy, because she'll get too jazzed up. So he taught her how to pirouette, which is really rocking her back on her hind end, making her be more up in her shoulder and like reach around and basically keep her butt in the same spot, lope a circle. It's wild.
Again, another video needs to be put in here just so you can understand what it is. But.
And so then he's just out in the middle of these Western pleasure horses doing this stuff. And I'm like, okay, Aaron, because he was geeking out. He was a little nerd, and he was geeking out, and he's like, I taught her how to peel off. I forgot. And so he was making her do it, and then she like looked fantastic.
Yeah.
And so then the next day for prep, he had another horse that he was riding, and so he couldn't hop on her the next day when I was getting ready to show in like the novice amateur, but he was out there, and so I did the same things myself on her. And then went and probably had like our best, most clean, most controlled ride ever.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm not saying we figured everything out about Kennedy at this show, but it's just
big things were discovered though.
It's wild how unique every horse is, and how if you get too mixed up in having everything prepped the same, you're just putting yourself into a box.
Yeah.
And I think that's like really what stands out about these high level trainers is they can really read the horse and figure out what they need. And so I was very grateful that we had that at our disposal at the show so that we could figure Kennedy out.
Yeah. And it's really hard as a rider to do what you did, hopping on, like, think about like if you're driving a car, and then if you've ever driven a right-hand drive car, like in England, Australia, or whatever, that's kind of what it feels like. It's like you jump out of a regular car, get in that one, try and drive.
And then you drive a stick.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like, and then you get into a third car, and when you turn the wheel left, the car goes right. And when you turn it right, it goes left. And your brake is now your gas, and your gas is now your brake. Like that's literally how it is on some horses. Like they're literally cued
so differently.
Like opposite, the exact opposite, where legs on means slow down, legs off means speed up. Then you have ones that are the opposite. So it's really impressive that you're able to go on 3, especially ones that with 2 that like you don't get to ride all the time.
I'm usually pretty self-deprecating, and I'm very proud of myself for that, and that I was able to do it successfully. So like Hollywood and I won the level 1 amateur circuit champion in the Western riding. We had some pretty significant bobbles in our amateur goes. And so we were like 8th and 10th, and like but out of like 20 something horses. So it was still good. And then Kennedy, we were circuit champions in the level 1 amateur Western pleasure and the level 2 amateur Western pleasure. And then we were still placing pretty nicely in the level 3. And I was very proud of that. So, and then Denver, in the maturity that I showed him in, it had 16 horses, and they were all very, very nice horses. It was not a cheap class to enter. People weren't entering it just willy nilly. They were paying good money to put their horses in there, thinking that, they were competing. And it was really cool to get third.
Yeah.
Out of that bunch of horses. So
I'm kind of laughing because Katie is always very self-deprecating, but then I have to laugh at the contrast of like me and Rebecca being your best friends, because we're both so different in how I'm like your hype man. I'm like, yeah, that's so amazing. You did all these things. You're doing so good. Rebecca's like, oh, it's okay.
No,
no, I'm kidding.
No, in private,
like she likes to make fun of you. Though.
She does.
Yeah.
She does make fun of me, and she humbles me. But then in private, like you're both absolutely like my cheerleaders, and it's great to have. But also I appreciate the humbling.
Yeah. So Rebecca's kids train at the jiu-jitsu gym I own. And so her and I get to hang out once a week. And yeah, when you were gone, we were talking about like how well you did. And yeah, so she's always like your cheerleader behind your back. But then I do laugh because she'll be like, it's all right, Katie, you did all right to your face.
But then she'll be like, she'll call me a bad word. And then she'll be like, you didn't send me your video. I want to watch your video and be proud of you.
No, I love it.
But yeah, it was a really good show. Sometimes you gotta go to those long ones where you just show a million times and you're so exhausted by the end of it, but then you come out like had it just been a weekend show and I only had the first half, I would not have experienced the like aha moments with Kennedy that we ended up having, which was very important in our journey, because I do really want to show her. Like our plans are to show her at the NSBA World and the Congress, and so
that's so exciting.
Yeah, I'm really pumped, and so we are going to try to do the Western riding with her as well. I don't know if that'll be achieved this year or not, but it's in the plans. So how cool would it be if next year I'm showing Kennedy and Denver in the Western riding?
Oh my God,
how cool would that be?
That'd be wild. I've always looked at people that will take multiple horses. So Western riding's like one of the classes where you could take multiple horses in. And I'm always like, man, that must be so hard, but also such a flex. Like,
well, but then I'm like, here's my stallion and his mother. Yeah. Like, I think it's so badass.
Oh no, that's gonna be so cool.
And I think that just speaks to like, I mean, breeding is just so important, and like the longevity and the mind. And, you know, we're sitting here talking about Kennedy being like, we're like, oh, she's so weird, but she's phenomenal. Like it's because of her quirks and because of like her mindset that she is so talented and freaky. You just have to, again, I think people just get too in a box, you know, when thinking about training and showing and things like that. So it was lots of mind-opening experiences over the last little bit.
So another thing with your showing. So one, like you haven't shown in a long time. So this is like your first time kind of really coming back to showing.
Yeah.
And then something else, like for people to understand, Katie also mostly comes from an English riding background, because that's my background as well. That
shocks people.
So this is also like, as someone who's shown at a high level in the English, but I've never shown at a very high level in the Western, like other than horsemanship. I can't, like I fully respect what you're doing, because I'm like, if I got on a pleasure horse, I don't care how good that pleasure horse is, I'm not going to do well. Like,
that's not a true statement.
I've gotten on some nice pleasure horses and it didn't go super well.
You would figure it out. You would figure it out. And what people don't understand is that, okay, so I want to say this carefully. Pleasure horses, to have them at the utmost, like to show off their talent at 100%, it's very hard.
Yes.
But I think pleasure horses offer an entry level that people don't understand that they do. Because, so like everyone, you know, Taylor Sheridan brought in reining horses to like a lot of people's eyes, right? Through like Yellowstone.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't understand is, like, they might hate on Western pleasure, but starting in Western pleasure and understanding the fundamentals of a horse, because you have to isolate their front end, you have to isolate their hind end, but you're going at a slow speed and you're probably on a safer horse than pretty much any other discipline.
Yeah.
I truly believe, after growing up in the all around and the Western pleasure and the 100 saddle, I truly believe starting in that, I mean, I've gone and gotten on a reiner. I've gone and gotten on, like, I truly feel like I could get on just about anything and understand the fundamentals.
The mechanics, around
and the
everything.
mechanics. And so I think a lot of people don't realize is that you might not be able to go do that sliding stop, and you might feel like, oh, I can't do horses. You might not be able to understand it to do it at like the world show level right at the beginning, but I feel like anybody could start in the Western pleasure, which I think is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I'm not taking away the difficulty of the high level riders in the Western pleasure,
but the entry level
I feel like is really accommodating to just about anybody.
That's such a good point.
And I wish more people knew that. Yeah. And it really does give you the ability to learn so much about your seat, about using your feet, about, again, just the mechanics. And I would really encourage those that feel like they're in a box and can't go jump Grand Prix jumps, or they can't go do a sliding stop on a reiner, or they can't handle the jerking motion of cutting, or they, you know, whatever. give it a shot. Give Western, those that hate on it haven't gotten on one that crack around like Kennedy or crack around like Denver. And it's exhilarating. It's slow. I understand. I don't know how to explain it to you. It's exhilarating. It's amazing.
That's such a good point about it being a good entry level. Because I've never thought of it that way, because I always think about it at the highest level and I'm like, oh my God, that's so unachievable. But
no,
like the baseline is.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I used to take Kalvin in there before he was even did Western.
Yeah.
We would move very quickly around the
for
pen.
sure.
But I mean, we were able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
like we'd place, like we'd get like, 7th or 8th or something.
I know.
Like a regular show.
I was looking at my points because I'm now a novice in everything because I've been out for 10 years.
Yeah.
And so I was checking out how many points I have and everything. And it was like 200 and something EC points and then a whopping 30 Western Pleasure points.
A whole 30.
From like a decade of showing. So.
Okay, so a question I have, because it's been a long time since I've shown. I'm bad at math. I'm not even going to try it. But it's been a minute. So when I was showing, your options were like novice, youth, novice, amateur, and then the opens. So
they've leveled it out now.
Yeah.
And that's been around for probably a decade and I still don't understand everything about it. So like within the maturity and futurity classes, it's just non-pro and pro.
Yeah.
So sorry, non-pro and open.
Yeah.
So open classes mean it's usually trainers, and if you get your pro card within AQHA, it means that you are being hired by people, you're being paid by people to train and to do things with horses, right? And so you cannot show in the non-pro events, you cannot show in the amateur events. But in the open classes, it's open to everybody. So if you're a non-pro and you want to ride your own horse in an open class, have at it. You're welcome to do it. But in the non-pro classes, it's strictly amateurs and youths that are not professionals. So then within the AQHA classes, so where it's youth and amateur, level 1, so there's no more novice.
Oh.
No more novice. It's level 1, level 2, level 3. So level 1, same thing with green. Green is now just level 1.
Okay.
So level 1 is, I believe, 25 and under points in that class, and you're at a level 1.
So it's like ultra novice, basically. If I was going to like,
it's just novice. It's the same thing as novice was.
Pointing out was what, 50 points?
No, it's 25.
Before, like old school. It was 25? Okay.
So I still probably don't know exactly on the point system for all of this, but I can give you like the gist of it. So level 1, and at the big show, it's still steep at the big shows.
Yeah.
Especially now that they've done it where you can go back to being novice. There's a lot of people that were really good in the youth come back as an amateur and whip butt. So level 1 is like your entry level. And they do have walk trot classes now too, which I think is great.
I think that's really good.
That's the entry level. And then they usually run it concurrently. So the only place that they're really going to split it up is at like the World Show.
Okay.
But for the amateur class, the regular amateur, they'll have it level 2 and level 3.
Okay.
Same thing in youth. So level 2, it's the same thing. You point out. And then once you get a certain amount of points, you can only be in the level 3.
Yeah.
So right now, whenever I go into the amateur, I enter in as a level 2.
So, and then how many points is it to go from level 2 to level 3?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a little confusing.
No, I actually kind of like that, because that was a big issue, was like a lot of people, it felt like there wasn't.
It felt like you went from novice.
Big jump from novice
to big dogs. Yeah. And it felt like, there was a little bit of a jump scare. At the World Show, they do have like level 2. And so it's not a big globe, but you still get a trophy and it's still its own thing. So I do plan on, if I take Kennedy, showing the level 2 Western Pleasure, and I'll show Hollywood in the level 2 and level 3 Western Riding. And yeah.
That's awesome. I like that. That's a good change that they did.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about it. Being level 1, back in the day, I used to be like, they shouldn't let people go back to level 1 and, whatever. I was like, that's not fair. Being out for a decade,
yeah,
I'm level 1.
Yeah.
Like, I promise.
And I've been out longer than you. Like it's probably been 15 years.
I promise
No, it
I'm level
hasn't been,
1.
but
So the
close.
only thing is, you never won the world.
No,
Just
I got
kidding.
second.
I was going to say, I think if you won the world, you can't ever go back. But you were second.
Yeah, second and third.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, you can go back then, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you had, and then that was the thing. I skirted by the skin of my teeth on being level 1 again because I had superiors in equitation, horsemanship, showmanship,
And what's a superior?
50 points or over. And so I think the rules are like you have to have not gotten a superior within the last 10 years.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so my last year showing was 2016 and I didn't show a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though I went and showed and showed at the Congress and was like third at the Congress, I didn't show a lot. So I didn't get a lot of points.
Yeah. That's kind of cool. Man, I would
Yeah.
go back to, I'd be a level 1 in everything.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
I have babies.
But
I have horses.
Katie's been trying to get me to go back to showing. I mean, I still have
I
my
just want
boots.
you and
They
Rebecca to
fit.
come to shows with me.
I'll jump on an English horse. I think I'd be too scared to get
I
on.
know I don't have any yet, but I will.
Yeah. I would do
there's
that.
some that-
I would do a 100 saddle class.
Because there's some that okay, for instance, Weezy and Penelopey. I don't want to sell them. They're going to be broodmares in my broodmare band one day.
Yeah.
So if I have too many babies coming up that we're doing in Futurities and maturities, or I can't decide which one I want to show as my amateur horse, I would like to lease the other one out,
Yeah.
And it's like, because I don't want to end their career too early, but it's like I can't show all these horses at once.
Yeah.
And so it would be cool if I could lease them to people that I love. Anyway.
Something I love that Katie does, in all aspects of her life, and it's ill-advised for most people, is she's just like, I'm going to employ my close friends and I'm going to make them come and do all these activities with me, which I love, but I laugh at because I'm like, no one else does this. You're like, let's just all do this thing together.
It probably is ill-advised by most people, but it's all right. Anyway, so we're about to eat lunch and we don't really honestly, like I said, get time to hang out and chill
Yeah.
that much. So we're going to go chat and have lunch together.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is going to make sense to everybody after I just realized how much I rambled, but if you like the nerding out about the horse stuff and deep diving into all the differences, and I hope I could translate it good enough, but if you have more questions, I would love to have Dani on more because, honestly, it's just fun to chat.
Yeah.
And I think we could bring in a new little segment,
Segment, yeah.
So if you have more questions or more things that you want to hear about the horse show side of things or whatever, please leave it in the comments. We have so much going on over the next couple weeks. I don't know that we'll have a catching up with Katie every single week, but for the next episode, let us know what you want to hear about and we'll see you then.